This is not the greatest podcast in the world. This is just a tribute. It didn't sound anything like that. Okay, it's recording. Hail and well met. This is Northurion, and I'm joined today via Discord by a very special guest.
I am North Junior, or as my friends and family call me, Agtol.
Welcome to this premiere episode of STRAE Plays. Normally you can find us playing World of Warcraft, but we do play other games. So North Junior and I are going to sit down and talk about a game we both played separately during a brief hiatus from WoW, and that is Bioware's Mass Effect. So we're going to compare notes, talk about our narrative choices, and just generally break down the game. There is a warning here. There will be major spoilers ahead, so if that's not what you're here for, please feel free to browse our vast library of scintillating Amnestre Media content. Okay, let's get started. So, North Junior, what's your history with Mass Effect?
My history is that I played Mass Effect 2 about a decade ago. I don't really remember a ton of that, but I remember I enjoyed the experience, so I got the Xbox Game Pass, and on it was the Legendary Edition, which has the trilogy of Mass Effect games. I started playing it, and I'm going to go through the trilogy. Of the other BioWare games that are out there, I have only played the first planet of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I have not done any of the other BioWare games. What is your history with Mass Effect and also BioWare?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize you had played Mass Effect 2 before. You probably played it around the same time I did, which was back in 2011. This was during a WoW hiatus. I had just gotten a new computer, and I wanted to sort of catch up with games that had passed me by. And as you know, I keep very meticulous records of all the games that I play. I played Mass Effect 3 in 2017. I think the game came out in 2012. As you know, I'm a patient gamer. It has to be super special to pay more than $5. And I've never played Mass Effect 1 until now. Like you, I played the Legendary Edition, which I picked up for like $6 on a Steam sale or something like that. Other BioWare games I've played, I think only Dragon Age Inquisition and quite a bit of Star Wars The Old Republic.
And you're playing on PC?
I am playing on a PC. I'm not a big console gamer. When I can, I like to play with a controller, especially games that are controller-oriented. But games where I have to aim a lot, I just can't do that on a controller. Yeah. I'm just so wired to keyboard and mouse.
I mean, it's like, with Mass Effect, clearly it's built for a console because all the dialogue is sort of based on the wheel, like, and all the menus as well. First-person shooters, definitely, I would rather play on PC.
So what was your playtime on Mass Effect?
My playtime was 23 hours. I did not do almost any DLC content that came with the Legacy Edition, and I didn't do most of the side quests.
Wait, holy crap, there was DLC in the...
I saw that there was after reading about it, but...
I didn't notice, so I played 44 hours... and I did a crap ton of exploration, which we could talk about later.
Alright, so this game came out in 2007. How do you feel about the graphics in the year of our Lord 2024?
I remember distinctly one of the reasons I did not play Mass Effect. You know, when I was looking at the Mass Effect games back in 2011, I looked at some of the gameplay, and it just looked bad. I do not know if I would have enjoyed this game if it weren't the Legendary Edition, which was... I mean, it's not current graphics, but it's at least an experience comparable to Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3. Some of the planets are just gorgeous. Now, I don't know if that was true in the original. I think it's only because it's the Legendary Edition, and that really helped with the sense of exploration. The cutscenes, I don't know if those have been updated. They're okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can do with bad graphics because I honestly don't have any particularly good hardware. My PC is not really much of anything, and Xbox One is not really known for being particularly good graphics-wise. So I can tolerate a high level of shitty graphics. My feelings about it is that I can handle it. It's just the face animations that take me out of it.
Uncanny Valley, anyone?
Yeah, and it's like after starting Mass Effect 2, there is a notable difference with the way that the faces are animated, and I'm thinking also of The Witcher 3, which was like, it's all like procedural facial animations. I guess that was the Uncanny Valley effect. I tried not to look at the faces while I was playing. I would just read the subtitles.
I think it was even worse in the original version.
And I think a lot of it comes down to lighting. Just looking at images and noticing the difference between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 is you can hide a lot of bad graphics with interesting lighting. A lot of the armor designs and guns and character designs I thought were, clearly a AAA studio. What did you think of the sound design / music?
I thought it was good. Gun sounds are satisfying. The music is very ambient, sort of techno, sci-fi. I really like the ambient music when you're viewing the star maps. The word immersive is probably overused, but I found the sound design and music immersive.
Yeah, my experience of it is that it was seamless. My experience, it was immersive, and there wasn't any moments where I was getting annoyed with the music. I think that can happen sometimes, especially with action sequences. I like the sound effect of selecting things, or when you activate things, that sound is in my head. I think a lot of sound design comes down to those little satisfying sound bites. It works. So
I absolutely agree with you, and we've talked about this before. I think that's one of the great things about World of Warcraft. I think the little dopamine hits you get with all the little sound effects, selecting stuff, and casting spells.
Voice acting. Well, I guess this comes down to, did you play as a male shepherd or female shepherd?
Yes, I went with a femme shep. I felt Jennifer Hale is very good. I didn't realize she was also a voice actor for WoW. Her largest recent role is Marithra, the daughter of Azera.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mother, I will always need you.
No. The last thing you have to do is keep going to show these bastards who won.
She is very good, and I was looking through her IMDb page or whatever. She's in a lot of things, so I would bet that she got a lot of notoriety from this game because she did a great job. The game really does come down to the characters, and the acting, I think, is a very essential part for the enjoyment of the game. Whenever there's weak points in the story, the immersion of well-acted characters sort of takes the hit in whatever. It fills the gaps, I would say.
So we don't have anything to say about Mike Mears as the male shepherd. I played a male shepherd once. I don't remember his performance, so it was not memorable. So some of the other standouts are Keith David. He's always good as Captain Anderson. I could listen to him for hours, which is probably why he's a narrator for a lot of Ken Burns documentaries.
Yeah.
Louis Armstrong, who had already revolutionized American instrumental music, would return to New York and transform American singing as well.
Another big name, I guess, would be Seth Green as Joker. Not much to work with there, but it was good.
Yeah.
Lance Henriksen as Admiral Hackett.
Yeah.
It helps that we associate him with Bishop from Aliens, so he's a good sort of battle-worn commander.
Show him that the Alliance won't back down.
In Mass Effect 2, of course, you have Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
But the only other semi-big name that's probably known to a lot of science fiction fans is Marina Sirtis, who played Deanna Troi on Star Trek as Matriarch Benezia.
Oh, really? That's funny. I did not know that.
My reaction is about as meh as she is on Star Trek. So.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the sound of Benezia, but
Fine. You should. Oh, you should. Mother!
not the most compelling character.
Please, I can't stand it. Make it stop.
The game really does come down to voice acting, and I think my opinions of the game are positive, and I think it's definitely a big part of it is the voice acting writ large.
Good point. Okay, let's talk about character decisions. We already talked about the FemShep decision. We both opted for a FemShep. So what about Paragon Renegade? Let's table the morality system for now. Just want to know, did you go Renegade or Paragon?
I tried to go both, but I ended up doing Paragon.
That's funny. Okay,
what did you do?
I went Renegade, but I also have issues. But let's table that for now.
Okay. No, this will be interesting then. What class did you choose?
My first instinct in any game is to go with ranged DPS, especially in a solo game, so I went Infiltrator.
Okay. I chose Vanguard because I wanted the shotgun and the pistol, which is the exclusive weapons that I use for the entire game. I don't think I touched the assault rifle or sniper rifle. And I chose that because my instinct for any shooter, third person, first person, either way, is to have a shotgun and run up really close and shoot people in the face. That's my preferred kind of gameplay.
See, I could understand that style of gameplay with a controller, and why my style of gameplay, I need to use a keyboard and mouse, because, I'm constantly aiming from a distance with precision.
So the weapons of choice for the Infiltrator are...
Like you, I only used one weapon, which was the sniper rifle. And it was a pain in the ass at the beginning, but by the end, it was like butter.
Yeah, I guess this is a good way of segueing into the combat. Did you find that the game was very hard in the beginning and then incredibly easy in the end?
That's exactly what I was going to say about it. With the sniper rifle. In the early going, I died quite a bit just because I couldn't get enough shots off because my gun kept overheating a lot. But by level 15 to 20, I felt like I had become invincible because you can just spam with the sniper rifle. You can fire very rapidly for a high amount of damage from a great distance. So
did you buy the fancy Spectre sniper rifle?
I don't remember. Where would you have bought that?
So I asked that because at sort of like 3/4 through the game, I bought what I believe to be the best shotgun, at least that I found, through the guy in the basement where Garrus and Rex were.
Yeah. That's where
I think I bought a license or something after becoming a Spectre, and I spent all of my credits on a shotgun, and then that just carried me through the rest of the game.
Yeah, I did something very similar. I bought it from that guy. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was called like HWS. It was like...
Yeah, that's the same style I got, but with the shotgun. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, I felt by level 20 I was invincible unless I did something stupid like just stand in the way of a rocket barrage or something like that. So ultimately the gameplay started feeling like kind of like a slog. At the beginning it was more interesting as a challenge and trying to figure out how to counteract enemies. But towards the end, I felt I was so powerful with that sniper rifle that I could just mow through anything. Part of the Infiltrator is using ranged tech attacks in order to degrade the enemy's capabilities and do damage from a distance. So I used that a little bit, but I really didn't. Mostly it was just the sniper rifle.
Yeah, the Vanguard has biotic powers that I didn't put any points into, I didn't use, and I had a similar experience where I was being very strategic early on in the first couple missions that I did, where I would die, say, 5 times to some boss I couldn't figure out how to beat. And then by the end of it, I wasn't going into cover at all. I was just running with with my shotgun and getting as close as I could. And
Yep.
I felt invincible. And I think this might just show my stupidity, but the unity power that resurrects your squad mates.
Yep.
Did you ever use that?
Yep.
I
Early.
did not use it at all because I did not understand that that's what it did. So when a squad mate died, I just waited until I killed everything.
Lol.
Which, just goes to show that I am, not very literate when it comes to learning the game mechanics. But also, I got through the entire game without having to resurrect a squad mate.
I mean, you get it kind of mid-game, and I used it a couple times mid-game. But again, towards the end of the game, I kept upgrading my companions' gear, and they were just as powerful as I was, really. They rarely died, so...
Because of that, I upped the difficulty in Mass Effect 2 on my playthrough.
Huh.
And it's a much more satisfying experience. It feels closer to what the game designers probably intended. If I did replay Mass Effect 1, I would crank up the difficulty a bit because
Yeah, now that you
really
know.
I did not use any of the combat systems that make the combat interesting. So, what did you think about the exploration in this game?
Exploration. Well, okay. I really enjoyed this at the beginning, but it very quickly became a slog. Especially since I tried to complete those collection quests. I actually completed the mineral collection quest, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
Especially because it gives no tangible benefit other than XP, which sucks.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me it gives you leg up on resource collection in Mass Effect 2 if you use your save game.
Huh.
I really enjoyed exploration a lot more in Mass Effect 2, where you have to scan the planets. That's not everyone's cup of tea, but I found that better than having to trundle along in the Mako all over a world that you've seen multiple times before.
I bet if they had sort of had fewer worlds that you could land on and populate them in a more interesting way, and then made the movement of the Mako a little bit more interesting, I think it could have worked. But it definitely was a slog, and it was the reason why I did not put those other 20 hours in that you did, because
Right.
I saw the mineral collection quest and there was no interest to it. I was interested in the artifact collection because there was little bits of lore for those. Did you end up collecting all of the artifacts?
I think probably not, because there was one that I couldn't get because I didn't do something on the Citadel on the first visit. I found this sphere that I couldn't interact with, and I looked it up, and it was because I missed something on the Citadel. Hey, have you played No Man's Sky or any of these procedurally generated exploration games? I wonder if those games might scratch the itch that Mass Effect created, or maybe it might not.
I would like to play those, but I have not played No Man's Sky.
I do like having that option to explore multiple worlds, but it just rapidly ended up being same old, same old. Oh, and one more thing I need to say. Can we have more than 3 interior layouts for buildings on these scores of worlds that we have explored? I mean, same building, same layout once again for the 50th time. That really bugged me. I don't remember it being so much of an issue in Mass Effect 2 or 3, but maybe I'm just not remembering and I've repressed that memory.
Yeah, I think what Mass Effect 2 did better, or learned from Mass Effect 1, is that it basically reduced the number of planets that you could land on. In favor of making the galaxy bigger. Like, you go to a planet and you scan it, you read a little bit of lore about the planet, and then you go on to the next one. The problem, I think, with Mass Effect 1 when it comes to planet exploration is they probably put too much time into making as many planets you could land on, but then did not inhabit those planets with anything of interest. So, in effect, it was padding. Things to do. You didn't really gain many benefits from it, although there were a couple of cool lore things.
Yeah, I think the exploration is kind of a designer fail.
I don't think that's the strong suit of this game. It was fun at times, tolerable throughout, but so many other games have done it better, and it felt like a necessary thing to get to the next plot point.
Okay, morality system. This is something we tabled when we were talking about our Paragon Renegade choice in character creation.
So when I made my character, I tried to role play as a survivor, basically. I chose the lone survivor option for in the character creation. I basically tried to make a shepherd who was interested in survival and not necessarily choosing sides. This is a problem because I think the entire morality system does not accommodate neutrality in any interesting way. I think it pigeonholes you into choosing either Paragon or Renegade. And that was a frustration I had, where in order to unlock certain dialogues or certain plot points, I had to have built up one of either Paragon or Renegade. And I generally chose Paragon, but in the end, a lot of my dialogue decisions came down to what stat I wanted to push up. Although there were some times when I decided to go either Renegade or the more neutral dialogue options. But overall, I was pretty frustrated with the morality system. What are your thoughts on it?
So that's really interesting. I also chose Lone Survivor. I think I chose Colonist, Lone Survivor.
I think I chose those exact same ones too.
Future Northurion here. Observant viewers will have noticed that I didn't actually choose the sole survivor reputation archetype, but the ruthless reputation archetype. Sorry for that senior moment. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. I played Mass Effect 2 as Renegade. I really didn't grok it since it was the first Mass Effect game that I played. I played Mass Effect 3 as Paragon. I found Paragon is a lot easier to play in these games, and if I'm not mistaken, there are a lot more Paragon points available in total. So I wanted to try to grok Renegade in this playthrough, but I ended up really ambivalent about it. So here's my experience. Paragon is easy. Renegade, not so much. I guess I have a different idea from the developers of what Renegade means, at least in terms of my character choices. To me, I was thinking, okay, I hate authority figures because they're all corrupt, but I'm going to stand in solidarity with my companions no matter what because we got to stick together against these bastards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and then the problem with Renegade is that the outcome is only sort of self-interest rather than interest in your team.
Exactly.
Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, the Renegade options with respect to authority figures like the Council and Starfleet, whatever it's called in this universe.
The Alliance.
The Alliance. So the Renegade options are pretty easy to pick up on with respect to that. But in relation to the rank and file, and your companions, like, I was just being a dick or an asshole.
We've got our orders. Bellyaching won't change them.
There's no category of what I would call cynical solidarity. There's only, goody two-shoes solidarity.
Kiss ass and asshole.
Yeah, exactly. It just rubbed me the wrong way. It was interesting what you were saying earlier, and it made me think of how they handle this in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how far you could get in Mass Effect in both Paragon and Renegade, because there are plenty of options to get both points. But in Star Wars: The Old Republic, it's like if you make a dark side choice, it lowers your light side. If you make a light side choice, it lowers, etc.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about the way that the game directs you, it comes from the fact that you are playing Shepard, you are not playing yourself. So it limits the amount of role playing you can actually do. And I think that there's a lot to say about what the story is doing with that. There's a very strict limit to the outcomes that can come about through your choices.
Sure.
This is something I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on. One of my biggest issues with the game comes from the fact that there is two basic options you can go about. And both of them inevitably are very pro-human, either pro-yourself or pro-human alliance. I found that there was a limit to your sympathies that Shepard could have with whatever aliens you were interacting with. You are an extrajudicial force for humans, so your interests are always for furthering the alliance. What are your feelings about that?
Do you think you would have felt that same way if you had done a thoroughgoing Paragon playthrough? Because I know the experience of playing Renegade is definitely in that vein. It's very human-centric.
I think that's precisely my issue with Paragon, is that ultimately you end up doing exactly what everyone tells you to do, which everyone is telling you that you are the first human Spectre and therefore representative of human interests.
Yeah.
We'll get into it later, but I did have a big issue with the choice of convincing Rex to destroy the cure for the genophage.
That's a really good point you bring up about the human-centric. I just wonder if it's accentuated when you try to do a Paragon run, because I didn't have a problem with it on the Renegade run. So there was no cognitive dissonance there.
Yeah. I mean, really what it comes down to is that there's two ways of playing the game. And I think a game that is built on sort of the choose-your-own narrative, I found it to be kind of grating.
Maybe this is a good place to put in a plug for the video Death Knights and the Illusion of Choice. Click on the link above if you're interested in exploring these topics further.
So how much did you metagame? I did not metagame almost at all. I didn't look up pretty much any guides unless I got stuck on anything. I basically have no clue what other narrative options there were other than what I did. What was your experience of that?
Well, North Junior, I have a confession to make. I'm a metagamer.
Did you save scum? I did save scum, actually, but I didn't look up guides.
I'm a notorious save scummer. So this is my confession. Read this all as my confession. And it's actually really closely related to what we have been talking about, the morality system. So every game I start playing, I say, I'm just going to make decisions as they come and live with the consequences. But invariably, I start playing that way, and the choice that the devs are proffering seems to point in one direction, but the outcome is nothing like what I expected. It would be okay if if I felt like the devs were smarter than me, right? Making me live with consequences I hadn't considered. But most of the time, I just feel like they're being deceptive, like pulling the rug out from under your feet. So yeah, after a series of choices I thought were Renegade choices that actually gave me Paragon points, I started metagaming to figure out what was actually the Renegade choice. Or short of that, I would save scum to try out different options and see the consequences. That's one arena of metagaming. Towards the end, just in order to finish the game, because I've been playing it for 40 plus hours, I shortcut the exploration component and just metagame the mining nodes just to get through the content and get my little measly resources that didn't amount to anything. You mentioned earlier that Renegade and Paragon opened up different narrative options, but I didn't, even having metagamed, I don't know that that's really true. It seems like the whole Renegade Paragon paradigm has very little effect on the outcome of the game. And that may have changed in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. I really don't recall there being any dialogue options that depend on your Renegade or Paragon rating. More important were the abilities like Charm and Intimidate, and I learned to max out Intimidate as quickly as possible in order to open up some of the more interesting dialogue options. Same is probably true for Charm, but Charm was not in my character concept.
Yeah. I dumped a lot of points into those as well. Maybe I am sort of projecting the morality systems of Mass Effect 2 onto Mass Effect 1. The question is, where you're putting your points into. Is it Charm or Intimidate? I put my points into both of them equally.
Huh.
So, having played a little bit of Mass Effect 2, and from your experience of playing both Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, would you say the difference between those morality systems is that in the latter two games, your morality choices affect other morality choices you can make, whereas in the first Mass Effect, the morality choices you make are determined by what stats you have, and those stats determine the possibilities of different branching narratives rather than your choices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I seem to recall distinctly playing Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 that an option would pop up that explicitly said Paragon or Renegade, and you had to make a choice. And those were probably based on your Paragon and Renegade standing. I think what we're looking at in Mass Effect 1 is just an underdeveloped system that they improved in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Well, I would say that maybe it's a window into something the game could have been, actually. Because I find that the morality system of Mass Effect 2, while it does lead to interesting choices whether you choose Renegade or Paragon, it's definitely a more fleshed out system. But it limits your ability to choose how you're going to roleplay. It's either you're a Paragon or you're a Renegade. Whereas because you're able to pump points into different stats in Mass Effect 1, you might have a bit more choice to determine what the story is actually going to be than in those later games.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
That I guess is a sign of sort of the way that morality or that choice system or morality system wasn't as fleshed out in Mass Effect 1, which is, I think, to Mass Effect 1's credit and also sort of against it.
Yeah, good point. Part of what you're saying is that, and that we probably should have said before, is to state the obvious. There are many ways to be a Renegade and many ways to be a Paragon, and this game really limits those concepts.
There could be a more interesting morality system, one that, I haven't played other Bioware games, so I don't know exactly what this would look like, but something closer to like a D&D chart where you have your 9 square grid. You start off as neutral and you can move in different directions.
Yeah.
I think that could have been a more interesting way of conceiving of the way that your choices affect the narrative. But when I say that, I also come back to the fact that we are not actually role-playing as anyone other than Shepard.
Sure.
In these games. So there's a story that they are trying to tell. The Paragon or Renegade system are the different branches you can take to get to that story, but ultimately there is one story being told.
Right. So the other Bioware games that come to mind are the Dragon Age games. I have only played Dragon Age Inquisition. I would have to revisit that in order to comment on it, but my recollection is that they do a much better job of this kind of character choice and ambiguity and unintended consequences. It's a more complex picture, so I think maybe that should be our next project, is to play through Dragon Age Origins or something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I've been wanting to play those games for a while, but I really want to play Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
I feel like that's sort of like the elephant in the room.
I'll play it when it comes down to $5 in 2045.
All right. I'll gift it to you on Steam.
So all this talk about character choices leads nicely into the relationships and the romance. What was your experience with your... What are they?
Our squad. Yeah, so I'm gonna guess that both you and I romance the same character. And the reason I'm gonna guess that is because both of us played FemShep, and Caden is an absolutely uninteresting character. So there's only one other option, which is Liara. Is that who you romanced?
No comment, just keep talking.
Okay. I think that the core of the game really is in the sort of attachments you get with the squad. Of the characters I found most interesting, I would say Rex, Liara, and Tali. A character I absolutely hated was Ashley. I very willingly sacrificed her on Virmire. There was no doubt in my mind who needed to go. Caden, as I said, was very uninteresting. Garrus, I have complicated feelings about Garrus, but yeah, what about you? Your overview of your squad.
Okay, so the first thing you mentioned was romance. I had no luck here. Unlike some of my previous playthroughs, Paragon especially, I've kind of described my character concept before. Very pragmatic, no nonsense.
Yeah.
business-like.
So none of the characters, none of the dialogue options where they were like coming on to you or whatever, you said you always shut it down.
I have a low tolerance for bullshit, so no romances emerged. Except
Alright.
Liara came on to me.
I wanted to know more about you, to understand what made you into the woman you are. There is something compelling about you, Shepard.
It was pretty hilarious. I had done nothing to express that I was in any way interested in a romantic relationship. So I put the smack down on that pretty quick. And then she confided in me that she thought that I was into Caden. So I disabused her of that too. But the great thing about Liara is that she will not hate you for rebuffing her. So that was great.
Caden does. I did rebuff Caden, and Caden gets bitter about it.
So this is very interesting. So who did I get along the best with, or who did I connect with as my femshep? For me, it was Garrus.
Interesting.
Sort of a fellow renegade. Rex warmed up to me.
I might be starting to like you after all.
But he was a little too close-minded, too single-focused. Caden and Ashley, I didn't really connect with them either. I mean, I listened to all their stories, but I didn't, express sympathy or empathy or... And just because of the character choice that I had made. On other playthroughs, I had gone to great lengths to orchestrate stuff, but on this playthrough, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you connected well with Tally, because... I had the least success with Tally. Tally, at the end, became my enemy because I refused to give her... She asked me for some information that was going to help her with her pilgrimage that she could take back to the fleet to prove her worth, etc. And I said, hell no!
Just remember why you're really here. Stay focused on Saren.
And so from that point on, she wouldn't even talk to me. And made it clear that as soon as we're done defeating Saren, I'm out of here.
Checking up on me, Shepard? Don't worry, I'm still here. But as soon as we stop Saren, I'm gone.
So...
My pilgrimage can't wait forever.
Interesting. I wonder what will happen when you carry over that save file to Mass Effect 2.
Right.
But what's interesting is that the way that you sort of treated those interactions was you sort of were consistent in your attempt to role play. I was not. Well, I guess it depends, because you were saying how when you were trying to role play as a renegade, your intention was to be for the little guy but anti-authoritarian. So it's kind of interesting to me that you chose to not be for your squad.
Well, actually, I think with the Tally choice that got me into trouble with her, if I had the dialogue options that actually explained my outlook more fully, it would have been something like, come on, Tally, stand on your own 2 feet. You sure about this pilgrimage thing? Rage against the machine, free your mind. There's a place for you on this ship. Don't you want to stay? In other words, anti-authoritarian, but definitely pro-Tally. It may not have been respectful of her cultural values, but definitely pro-Tally.
Did those decisions increase your renegade?
I'm pretty sure I got renegade points when I refused to give the data to Tally.
Huh.
I guess I was hoping for a way of dealing with my squad that was like, yeah, I don't see it that way, but you're my comrade in arms and I got your back. Just do your duty and stop whining. We're all in this together. I guess what I would call unsentimental solidarity, with emphasis on unsentimental.
So, what character... You said you were interested in Garrus.
So Garrus is himself a renegade. His father wanted him to work for CSEC. That was not the path that he chose. So he chose another path. He wants to be a Spectre, and there was a particular quest where we basically agreed on the solution. That was the Evil Doctor quest. Dr. Salion, I think it was. We agreed that the solution was a little extrajudicial justice.
That was satisfying.
Good. Remember that feeling. That's how it should be.
I will, Commander.
He was the character closest to the way I was trying to roleplay. We were very simpatico.
Yeah. So maybe this is a difference in the way that you and I played as well, which is since you played the latter two games, and I played Mass Effect 2 and don't remember anything about it.
I also don't remember much about Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 3.
Well, so my focus with the relationships with the squad was I was very interested in the alien societies that they were describing. That was the reason why I got invested in the characters of like Rex and Liara and Tali, more so than Garrus, because I still don't know anything about Turians, really. But I learned a lot of interesting things about Krogans and Quarians and the Asari.
There's more in Mass Effect 2 about the Turians, and there's more Garrus content.
I haven't got to it, so I'll take your word for it.
No more red tape. No more politics. From now on, I do things my way.
I'm glad you see it that way. Keep that in mind when we meet Saren.
So let's get into the choices that we made for the main story, starting with Feros and the Thorian. What choices did you make for this section?
Killed it.
You killed it.
I killed the Thorian. Look, my ship doesn't like leaving threads hanging. That thing needed to go down, just to tie up all the loose ends. To quote Ripley, it's the only way to be sure.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Future Northurion here. It was only in the editing process that I realized everything I've been saying about my FemShep character concept throughout this video is actually Ellen Ripley.
Well, I killed the Thorian too.
Oh, you did?
And I think I did it to free the colonists, the trapped people.
Funny you should mention them, because I also killed them.
Really?
This was full-on Renegade.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so what did you think of the Thorian twist? What I liked most about that quest was the like, what's the Thorian? What's the Thorian? And then when the Thorian was revealed, I was kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but I felt like there could have been something a little more. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that this game was made in 2007 and we're playing it when it's 2024. That the twist of there being a strange sentient organism that is also like an evil tree that infects the colonists. I don't know. I liked the build-up. I didn't like the payoff.
I was expecting Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me, Seymour.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have much to say about the Thorian.
I don't either.
I thought it.
Just one more thing about the Feros colonists. I really like them. I grew attached to them. But my ship is very unsentimental. I mean, once it became clear that they were a threat, they had to be put down. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, should we go on to Noveria? I liked Noveria, the planet. So I guess the Rachni Queen is the main outcome at the end of this, but I had a lot of fun doing the corporate espionage stuff.
How did you handle that?
I handled it a couple of different ways. I save scummed a little bit.
So did I.
Yeah. But I think I ended up having it where they both shot each other.
Same characters. Here. Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's kind of interesting that you say that because clearly our motivations are different for the role-playing aspect of it. I sort of felt like there's a sense of they got what they deserved kind of thing. What was your sort of like role-playing motivation for having them both die other than it just being the most evil option?
Well, Annaleus had to go down because he was just corrupt. I felt at the time that I was picking the most anti-corporation solution, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
You know, Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
All right, we waste him.
No, that's what I was trying to do as well. And that you get the most Renegade points from if Annaleus and it's his assistant, right?
Yeah. But she's an operative.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did save scum for that, and it was fun to see the different variations, and I don't know, I kind of like those moments where there was a clear moment of narrative branching that you could choose.
Yeah.
What did you choose for the Arachni Queen? I think I know what you're going to say, but
what do you think
just
I'm going to say?
You killed it.
Yeah, the Arachni Queen's existence is a threat to everyone. We already have enough threats to our existence. Why allow her to live?
Yeah. So I'm gonna guess when it comes to key decisions, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but did you also sacrifice the council in the final parts of the game?
No comment.
Virmire? Do we want to go Virmire?
Sure.
Okay, so I have feelings about the genophage decision at Virmire. It's the part of the game that I think about the most.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to run through what I did, or do you want to go first?
Let me go first, because you'll be disappointed with mine. But
okay,
I want to give you space to talk about yours. So
yeah.
Okay, so my Shep took a very pragmatic approach. We don't know what's going on here, whether it will actually be a help to anyone. We don't have time to sort it all out, all the moral implications and ramifications. We have one mission: stop Saren. Mm-hmm. And we'll pursue that mission single-mindedly, and we can't afford to be distracted. Sorry, Rex.
Yeah,
if you don't,
Ashley killed Rex in yours, right?
Well, Rex, you can feel free to leave, but because I had my Intimidate maxed out, I had an option that convinced him to stay. So I did not kill Rex.
You did not kill Rex.
I did not kill Rex. Rex is still my buddy, reluctantly.
Okay.
Yay, Intimidate.
Did you even see the cutscene where Ashley kills Rex?
Nope.
Interesting.
Saren doesn't care about these Krogan. They're tools, puppets. He'll destroy them as soon as they're no longer useful to him. Is that what you want for your people?
No, we were tools for the Council once. Thank us for wiping out the Arachni. They neutered us all. I doubt Saren will be as generous. All right, Shepard. You've made your point.
This was a moment of me save scumming, because initially I didn't like the Paragon option. I think I had both Intimidate and I had both of those options open, and I chose neither of them because I didn't like either of the things that Shepard said, so I chose one of the choices on the right rather than on the left.
That's the advantage of being a pragmatist. You don't have to like any of the reasonings, as long as it gets the job done.
Yeah. And at the end of it, Ashley killed Rex. Which already, with dialogue with Ashley, where it turns out she's like racist against aliens, she was already on my shit list. And then she killed Rex, and it made me mad. So I saved Rex, and then I sent Ashley off to die. Here's my thing about the whole thing with Rex is not only in order to have him survive, and I like him as a character, he's an interesting character, you have to not only convince him that you are going to destroy the hope for his species to carry on, you have to convince him to do it with you. You have to convince him to participate in his own genocide. I mean, I think that this is something that comes back to me again and again. It's if you want to play a pro-alien Shepard, you can't really do it. You can only do it in certain ways. And I think it would have been more interesting if there was an option where you could could be acting totally like against the Alliance's self-interest, but you either are acting in the Council's interest or your own self-interest, which is like the Renegade. So I don't know. It's like at that point it felt like it is something that Shepard would do, and it's consistent with the character. But I kind of just felt like it was a little bit kind of a lazy way of resolving that issue between Shepard and Rex. It's like, I guess, okay, because Ashley died from that, so I'm happy about that. But who did you sacrifice? Kaden and Ashley, who did you get rid of?
Before I answer that, I just want to agree with what you said, that this is weak storytelling. The ease with which either you can talk Rex down, or the ease with which Ashley smokes him, both are lazy. There was a lot more potential there, so it felt very rushed. But back to your question about the ritual sacrifice. So, Ashley and Kaden, throughout the game, were my default away team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who was yours?
I switched it up every time.
Yeah.
What I tried to do is keep an even balance between biotic, tech, and weapons. I think those are the three. I think probably Tali and Rex were my go-tos.
So, Ashley and Kaden were my default, and I always found Ashley much more reliable, less death-prone, so that colored my decision. Also, I feel like my character concept, being down-to-earth, no nonsense in a somewhat rigid way, and also very much unlike your character, probably anti-alien, made my Shepard also kind of antibiotic. See what I did there?
Just stay away from me, Bishop. You got that straight?
Guess you don't like the cornbread either.
In other words, there was always something wrong or weak about Kaden, so she was more willing to sacrifice him than Ashley, so that's what she did. Plus, Ashley was protecting the damn nuke, so I had to lend my aid to her instead of Kaden. So that's what I decided.
Interesting.
So how do you react to that?
Well, okay, so the Virmire was probably my favorite of the missions because you got the big reveal, Sovereign, the ship. I liked that exposition dump. It was pretty cool. I liked all the Prothean, Reaper exposition dumps. Like, I was very into that. That was the high point of the game for me. The final fight was cool, but not as cool as Virmire.
Interesting. So what about when you get down to the lab? There's other choices to make down there, like who to release, and there's the
I released everyone and then just shot who attacked me.
There's the Asari woman.
Yeah, I saved her. I did, I think, a Renegade thing, but then I sent her away. I sent her away at gunpoint, I think.
I made all pragmatic choices. I don't know what freeing these people will do. Will they help? Will they hinder the mission? No time to figure it out. Guessing could lead to disaster, so I didn't free any of the prisoners, and I killed the Asari, because how can I trust her? So what about
saving the Asari? And I think that character returns in Mass Effect 2. So another thing
that's right.
I think that's kind of interesting about the way that you are playing the game is that you are not playing the game with the expectation that any of those characters will want to interact with you in the second game. Like, are you planning on playing the next two games?
Yeah, I've already done it, so I don't...
Yeah, so why not? Yeah, so it's kind of interesting the ways that our choices affect the metagame. Which is that I am playing it to preserve as much as I can so that I have as much content in the next games, and you're going much more like actual role-playing.
There's no doubt that I've locked out other potential content from the sequels.
I mean, it's interesting though, because it's like we started off talking about the metagaming aspect, where you were saying how you do metagame, like look up different options, and where it turns out that I'm the one that metagames more than you, because I am making decisions not based on what's actually happening in the game or the story, but what I hope will happen in the future in the next game, and you're sort of playing the way that I intended to. But, you know, you also said earlier on that you were like, you were going to do the whatever choice I make, I stick with it. And in some sense, you were doing that more than I was.
So, you mentioned some of the end game choices. Where did you end up with Shepard?
So I sacrificed the council. I didn't think that you could save the council and destroy the Reaper, and I learned later after reading about it that you could.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you choose to save the council, you can save both. I'm assuming that you did the, like, let them die option, whereas I did the middling option of, like, we don't have time.
Was there, like, a more harsh version of we don't have time, I guess?
Yeah. There were 3 options. There was we're gonna save him, there was we don't have time, then there was fuck the council, basically.
Well, here's one thing. I reached max Renegade around level 20, maybe 25. I ended up at level 28 out of 30. So, towards the end of the game, I felt that I didn't need to, again, metagaming, I didn't need to make as many Renegade choices, so I, more often than not, took the neutral choice.
Yeah.
So I don't think I said fuck the council, but I did fuck the council.
Wait until those arms open, Joker. We need all our ships focusing on Sovereign, even if it means sacrificing the council.
Yeah,
they did not survive.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that you say that, though, too, because it's like you were at such a high level that your decisions don't matter at a certain point of Paragon or Renegade, or at least once you eliminate that factor of, like, what stat am I going to build up, the options for the story seem a little more, I don't know, you can do what you find more interesting in terms of narrative once that system is out of the way.
Who did you pick to lead the council?
I picked Anderson. Who did you choose?
Anderson. So we need to start wrapping this up. What do you think of the story overall? And I guess you could include world building in that.
Yeah, so I think the main draw for this game for me actually was the world. The story is good. I liked the Prothean Reaper reveals, but really the thing that captivated me, that sort of made me keep going, is learning more about the different alien races. I mean, we were talking about companions earlier and how you sort of took the more role-playing option, and I was definitely like a lore-heavy kind of thing. Like, I wanted to hear everything that they had to say about their things, and I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics, say, between, like, the Quarians and the Geth, the Solarians and the Krogan, the Asari and the Krogan, and how there's sort of, like, different ideas for, like, you have, like, an entirely male society for the Krogan, and you have an entirely female society for the Asari, and there's sort of, like, some kind of weird ideas going on in there that I think are interesting. But I was interested in the aliens, and I was doing everything I could to learn about the aliens and the world, and I thought that the game kind of like pushed against that style of play in some ways. It would like tantalize you with these options of different dynamics between different alien races, and like, say for instance, the Krogan genophage thing, and how like Rex is helping the Solarians who invented the genophage. You would hit certain narrative walls that could have led to interesting things in your relationship, or like the ways you as the character Shepard could participate in the various political and racial dynamics between the different aliens. And your play style ended up being pretty supported by the game, like very human-centric. And yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the story overall, and then what I just said about our different play styles and how the story evolved from that?
No, I think you're definitely right. One thing I would say is that because I had already played Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, I'd already been introduced to those alien races, so I didn't have that experience this time of, oh wow, this is new and wonderful. However, I would say that speaking about the trilogy as a whole, the whole IP, I give it really high marks because it has that grand space opera feel. I really like that.
Yeah.
The idea of a sort of newly formed galactic commons with multiple races working together and sometimes in opposition to each other to defeat an ancient foe. I really like that idea of the ancient evil, whatever that's resurrecting. I mean, it reminds me so much of Babylon 5, and you know that I love Babylon 5.
Shadows versus the Vorlon.
Yeah, I know you love Babylon 5. Yep.
Yeah.
The year is 2259. The name of the place is Babylon 5.
There are probably other influences, but that's the one we're most familiar with. But I really like that. There are some story beats that you haven't hit yet in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 that I think will scratch some of your itches?
Yeah. And I think that this is like not quite on the same level, but I guess I'm doing the comparison to Star Wars. But what I love about space opera stories is how big the world feels and how there's all these different societies and planets that all have their interesting little things about them and that you can kind of immerse yourself in. You and I both talked about how the combat was kind of like a slog. Really, the draw of the game is about the dialogue trees and learning about the different species. And there's an escapism to this, but there's also groundedness that is really fun. I feel like there's a lot of choices they could have made to sort of complexify the narrative.
Yeah.
But I played 23 hours of it, and I enjoyed it.
I played 44 hours of it, and I enjoyed probably 23 hours.
Yeah, it's a good 23-hour game, and, that's exactly what I wanted. And I'm excited to play the other games. And I'm sure there's a game that does Mass Effect better than Mass Effect does. This is 2007, and I liked it. I feel like this game probably set the stage for a lot of other games, and it's rough around the edges, but for playing a game made in 2000, it holds up pretty well.
Maybe we should play a Dragon Age game next.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be fun. Well, I gotta finish all the Mass Effects, though.
I did use my save to create a character in Mass Effect 2 and played like the first 10 or 15 minutes of it, so... Damn, I forgot how Mass Effect 2 starts. It's pretty drastic for the opening of a game.
It's a solid hook.
Yep. Alright, so we should wrap this up. Thank you for listening, assuming you are still listening, to this premiere episode of STRAE Plays. Look for another episode soon. Any final words, North Junior?
Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment, and then reply to your comment, and then like that comment and the comment you made. It all goes for a good cause.
Alright. On behalf of Amnestre Media, peace out.
Have fun.